Hey, what's up, Roxstars? It's Rox, and I am coming to you today with a special type review for Underground Season 2, Episode 6. So, if you guys watched the awesome episode that came on last night, it was on at a special time at 8 p.m. I wasn't quite sure why they were doing it at a special time, but I quickly came to find out why. This episode was dedicated to a speech that was given to some abolitionists by Harriet Tubman. And I will admit, when I found out that the entire episode was going to be nothing but Harriet Tubman sitting in a room or speaking in this room to this group of people, I just sort of was disappointed. I was ready to hear the stories and see what happened with all of our favorite characters on the show, but I knew that I was going to sit there and watch it regardless, okay? It was sort of like that same feeling you get when you done had a rough-ass week. You go to church on Sunday expecting to hear some good word from your preacher, and then when you get there, there's a guest pastor there. You don't know the guest pastor, and you don't know what he is going to say if you're going to get the message that you needed that day. It was the same feeling. Of course, I knew who Harriet Tubman is, but I guess I wasn't in the mode for hearing an hour-long speech from Harriet Tubman. Well, what a difference an hour makes, right? I don't know what else to say about that episode, but other than I thought that it was excellent. They do such a good job with writing on this show. A lot of times when people complain when they do these type of period pieces that the historical context a lot of times is compromised and they get a lot of things wrong. And while they have admitted that they've had to make some changes, just very small, they do a good job with trying to keep the consistency of what really happened as far as history is concerned and presenting it to the audience. And at the same time, they're able to incorporate fictional characters into the storyline and still make the story make sense. I am not a big historian. You guys probably know that. But as I've gotten older, of course, I have been interested in history. And when it's something good to watch, I can watch it no matter what. This show is one of those shows that you learn so much from. The show deserves a big viewership. And that episode last night was really significant. And it just blew me away. Okay, so Harriet Tubman, she is talking about her life basically, from when she was born all the way up until that moment. You see that she is very nervous at the beginning because she's about to sit down with this group of white people and tell her story. She's getting dressed, her back is laced with welts from being beaten over the years, whipped over the years. And then she goes down there and she just sits down and she just starts her story. She said as she was a child, she was always afraid of white people. So imagine how she feels right now. Okay, she never understood why the fear was there, but she knew white people was not there to do her any good. She said she learned a lot from her mother, who was able to, who knew how to move around white people, who knew how to observe, who knew how to hold secrets in, use things towards her benefit. She said she saw her mom doing all of these things and that her childhood with her mother was what had shaped her to that day. She just wants to make it clear to these white folks that slavery is hell, and she wants them to know how she escaped that hell. I loved when she said that you have to understand what bondage is, that it attacks your senses. You get whipped and the taste of copper is in your mouth and it doesn't go away. And she painted a perfect picture for them to understand that being whipped and being a slave and being in bondage, you are never ever free. You can't feel free when somebody has capture over you. But anyway, she talks about when she was a child and they had her working as a slave already. She couldn't never get the job of dusting the house right, so they put her out in the muskrat traps. And that was like, she said she was no taller than a chair, 4, 5, 6 years old. It was too much for her. She got sick. She was able to come back to her mother, but they were still slaves. And she knew even then that when she was with her mother that she still was not free. She talks about how she was very rebellious, all right, standing there and watching white folks talk, and all she could think about was stealing a piece of sugar cube and putting it in her mouth. Soon as she got the sugar cube, her master saw her and tried to hit her with the whip, but she took off running. And she didn't care. You know, that sugar felt so good to her. The fact that she did it and that she could taste the sweetness on her tongue, that felt like freedom to her. And she wanted to have that feeling all the time. So she had decided that she was going to leave. She was going to run. Okay, she talked her brothers into going. She said that was the last time that she would ever talk anybody into trying to run away, because they got out there. It was too many people not wanting to do it, not knowing which way to go. They were doubting her, and they decided to go back. Okay, so she was very upset about going back, and that was when she said she'd never ever try to talk anyone into going to freedom. You got to want it within your soul. It has to be everything to you to get away from the slave master. So true to her rebellious nature, she decided to run again because she was tired of being in bondage. She said that she was whooped so much that she refused to even cry. She would not give her slave owners the satisfaction of knowing that they had broken her. That would give you some kind of insight to her, you know, to the strength of this woman. She talked about how she started to have these spells that she calls them, when she would, you know, black out. Turns out, like you guys had already told me in the comments, that she was hit in the head accidentally by a slave master who was actually running after one of his other rebellious slaves. He was trying to hit them with an iron weight, and it hit her in the head. Okay, so from then on, she would have these spells when she would black out, but in her blackouts to the outside person, inside she was having conversations, she said, with prophets who would tell her what to do. Okay, let her know, let her see freedom. And she said it's something about knowing that you are in bondage and how horrible things are, but believing that it can get better. That is where you really are free on the inside. As long as they don't have your mind and your heart, you could still be in bondage, but you can believe that something better is coming. So she decided to run again. She got older. She even found a husband, John Tubman. Okay, took his last name, but always had the feeling that she was going to run again, and eventually she did. She said she was running. She said she didn't know where she was going or what she was doing. All she knew, she was headed for Pennsylvania. And then the magic moment came when she did make it to Pennsylvania. She crossed over into Pennsylvania, and she was happy. She was there. Okay, she was free, except she was by herself. She didn't have any of her family there with her. She didn't know anybody there. So even though she's free, she's alone. So she had made the decision that she would go back because she wanted her family to experience this same feeling of freedom. She worked as a cook. She worked as a cleaner. She did whatever she had to do to make money to know that she could make it back to her family down south. Okay. And she was like, you know, I snuck away and ran to get away from this type of work just to be doing it again, but she's free this time. She has the decision, she has the choice to make whether or not she wants to do this. Okay, she's getting paid for it. All right, she's making relationships with the people along the coastline, and she said that she made sure that she knew folks that could help her in her mission to go back and get her family. And the time came when she would run back to get them. And just imagine, you guys, somebody that doesn't have you know, you just can't jump on a freeway and drive down there and get your people. Okay, she is running in the middle of the night. She said that she went when it was cold, when it was winter, the nights were longer. She just worked her relationships and made it back down south. She wanted to get John, bring him back, and turns out John had got him a new woman. She was living in the house that Harriet was living in when they were together. You know, she was upset about that. He didn't want to leave with her, but she was like, fine. You know what? You feel like you can live without me? I can live without you too. You just pull up your bootstraps and you keep on going. Because guess what? Even though John didn't want to leave, there were plenty other slaves who wanted to leave. And that was what she did. She helped those people who wanted to leave. Now, you needed to know for sure if you wanted to leave, wasn't no turning back. Harriet had her gun. She had her weapons. And when we hit the road, it's either we gonna make it alive or we gonna die. We ain't going back. That's all it is. So people had to make it up in their mind that they were going. And she was responsible for getting these people to freedom. And she said she went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. She didn't even take them to Pennsylvania, took them all the way up to Canada, because she couldn't even trust what was going on in the United States. The ground was shifting. She said it was too many changes with the laws. You didn't know what was going to happen. So you know what, let's just take them over to Canada. Let them start new there. She went on to talk about how she met up with John Brown, and there was a lot of conversation about the men and the abolitionists in the room, whether or not they agreed with his tactics. And that was the one time when Elizabeth was like, we came here to hear Harriet speak, let her speak. So I was glad that it was a woman that had to get these damn men together. But Harriet basically said, listen, okay, this is war. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody wants to go to war, but this is what it is. We are trying to fight for the freedom of these people. So, yeah, it can get ugly. We can be killing folks, but you got to take up your arms and you got to find a way. She said, as long as you have conviction in your heart that you are doing the right thing, God will bless you. He will guide you. He will tell you where to go. You guys, it was just so touching to me. She looked dead into the camera and she was just like, make the bad great again. Don't surrender our future or our souls. Ain't nobody get to sit this one out. You hear me? And then the camera just cut off, you guys. It was just the most powerful, because that last, when it went over 8 minutes, and I would say that last 8 minutes of the conversation was definitely geared towards what is happening today, the plight of the black person today, and trying to fight so many injustices in the world, so it was just amazing. And Aisha Hines, I think is her name, who plays Harriet Tubman. Oh, she just did an awesome job. I mean, after a while, it started to feel like I was watching Harriet Tubman talk. It was really, truly an experience. And I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but I was floored at how something so simple as a speech could touch us. So again, just like how it feels when you get the word that you needed from church, I just felt like she did an awesome job. I feel like the writer did a great job. I feel like the producers of this show should all be recognized and commended for the fantastic job that they do on this show. If she does not get an Emmy nod for that episode alone, yeah, it was just amazing to me. Maybe it was some things in it that I just needed to hear in my own personal life. I don't know. But it touched me. That's all I gotta say. It touched me, you guys. You guys let me know what you thought about the episode, though. Did you learn anything from it? If you didn't learn anything else, you should have extreme respect and awe for a woman such as Harriet Tubman, who selflessly gave of herself over and over and over again. It was just an amazing episode for me. Just really, really good. So yeah, you guys let me know what you thought about the show. All right, you guys, let me get off of here. Get to crying and carrying on. Anyway, you guys, make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm itsrox. The channel is for itsrox. Everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I plan on doing the same. Till next time, Roxstars. Bye.